virtual celebration here. And let's everybody give Dudley a big hand right now for just turning 90. I mean, that's incredible. I can't believe it. 90 years old. Glenn, let's spotlight me and Dudley. There's Dudley. And there's me. All right, Dudley. Congratulations on your 90th birthday. And
thank you. Thank you for doing this.
Thank you for tolerating this. How do you feel?
Fine. I've got a little pinched nerve in my spine, and my arthritis is kicking in from time to time. But
how many gigs are you doing a year these days?
None.
None.
I did a real nice one. I did the farmers market in Canterbury back in July, and that was in the past I would just take my accordion and go down under a tree and play, and my friends would always stop and talk, and they'll go to farmers markets to buy tomatoes, not to listen to singer-songwriters. And so, but I would always be able to visit with people, even if they were 10 feet away. And that was before COVID. And no microphone. This year, they put us up on a hill, and nobody came up to say hi. I had to set up my sound system, which I hadn't used for a year. And it was awful. The only thing I go for is they pay twice as much as most other farmers markets. Only let you work half as hard, give you plenty of libation and free veggies. So then I did a concert in Tamworth. It was by the library, and it was outdoors, and it was in the shade. It was just great. And then there's a Catholic school not far from here, Catholic college, that decided they wanted to have a dance. They said, to hell with it, we're going to have a dance. So they quarantined themselves for a week or so, and we had the dance outdoors under a tent, and they did not wear masks, but they wore gloves. And it was just great. It was a real soul lifter. Boy, I needed that. But that was back in September, and it's beginning to fade away. I feel kind of bad about that. But
yeah, I mean, normally you were, before the COVID, you were doing all kinds of gigs. You've been very active all through this.
Well, at one particular point, Jacqueline and I were doing 300 a year or more.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, but we're not.
The secret of longevity.
Right down to about 80. But one time I was talking to Smoke. I see him there somewhere, and he said, "How do you do 300 a year?" And I said, "Well, we'll go to school in the morning, and afternoon, and then after that, we'll have a nursing home, and then we do an evening dance at the school. That's 3 gigs." Oh, that's how you do it.
Yes, I remember that story. We thought you were maybe padding the numbers a little there, but that's okay. That's okay. It must be a secret of your longevity, but I would like to share everybody the first moment that I encountered you, because I remember it so well. And what it was, I think it was in the winter of 74, 75, and we were looking to find a mentor to figure out all this, how the dance works with all these jigs and reels that we were getting very excited about, especially New England music, but we hadn't quite put together the connection of how the dancing worked. And we read that somebody was going to be playing for an old-time country dance at Bowdoin College, and he was going to play this instrument, melodeon. Wasn't even sure what that was, but he was going to be calling dances. And we got to go and check this out. This might be interesting. And so we get to Bowdoin College, and the band it was wintertime. The band arrived a little late. I think it was a snowy evening, and all of a sudden in comes this dashing figure. I'm like maybe like 24 years old, and here's this dashing figure, maybe like 44, coming in, commanding everything with a big blue cape on, no less, like Superman. He comes roaring in, rushing in, and his band following, and they set up right away on stage. He had a pretty big band, a really great guitar player, and I think piano or bass or something. But there was Dudley with his button accordion, and he just took over the whole dance, and we all jumped in to experience the old-time country dancing for the first time, and it was so much fun. It was just an amazing experience. And when we left that night, we knew now what we wanted to do. We wanted to take this love of the music and run our own dances, and we were going to do it just like we had seen Dudley do it, which is to play the tune and call the dance and make it all happen. And it was such an inspiration. So we kind of went out and started the contra dance revival, basically in Maine, from that original point. And then I'd like to play you a tune here, a tune that you know very well. If anybody wants to play along, it's in the key of C, and because I always associate this tune with you, Dudley. I think I heard it the first time you ever played it, and there's some words to it too. So key of C here, the Monk's March. That is shining in me and you. There's a light that is shining in the Turk and the Jew. There's a light that is shining more for me and you. Walk in the light wherever you may be. Walk in the light wherever you may be, with your old leather breeches and your shaggy, shaggy locks. You are tearing down the pillars of the world, George Fox. And you've been tearing down the world ever since. I thought I see you as this sort of character that is helping change the world in a better way, just like the song says, and bringing music and light into the world, and you've inspired so many other people to do that joy. So thank you so much for that, Dudley.
One time, you're talking about the Blue Cape. I'm not sure if there was one dance that we played for at Nassau College in Sanford, Maine, and I remember that the Smoke was there and a couple of other people, and I used to go down there and do dances at a little private school. And near there, I think it was called College School of the Atlantic or something. Anyway, it was a bunch of hippies that ran it, and they'd have a potluck dinner before, which was mostly zucchini bread. And the one time I would go with some other people and have dinner with them, and they'd always have ham and turkey and stuff. And then you'd get to the dance, and they always had ice cream. Well, one time I decided not to go to the school to eat, because I didn't want any zucchini cookies, but I did want some of that ice cream. So I went to this other house and had ham and turkey, and then went to the dance, and came into the hall, and they didn't have the ice cream. But anyway, I had the Blue Cape, and I swept into the hall and swept it over my face like that. And somebody wrote about it in the newspaper, and they said you could tell the dance had begun because Dudley Laufman swept into the hall. But he didn't say swept into the hall. He said Dudley Laufman wept into the hall.
Oh, typo.
But I remember the first time I saw you guys was probably Bates or Bowdoin or one of those places. And it was me and Randy Miller was playing fiddle. I think I was playing fiddle. And
oh, no. It was
well,
button accordion.
There was one dance over there was playing the fiddle, and then Cal Howard was playing piano. And so I looked out the door, and there was a bunch of scruffy looking hippies with their bib overalls and stuff. And one of them was Elaine, came up and put a tape recorder down on the desk, on the stage. Said, "Do you mind if I tape this?" I said, "No, that's fine. Go ahead." And that was the end of my going to Maine on a regular basis. But I took home and learned everything and was able to play it. That was great.
Yeah, we always let people sit in with our band and share the music and share the joy. It all works out in the end. I don't think you really felt competitive to us, but we
No,
certainly
no,
didn't
not at
feel that
all.
way.
No,
So
one thing I remembered about you guys there that you didn't use any sound system in Bodenham with a big band and no sound. And
that's right. Oh, I know at Bodenham, absolutely.
well, I
Yeah.
remember one time I was
Well,
playing.
that was your inspiration, the Canterbury
Yeah,
Country Dance Orchestra,
yeah,
because you had created the Canterbury Country Dance Orchestra. We then combined a bunch of the bands that had participated in the sort of the revival, and we said, well, let's have the Maine Country Dance Orchestra.
sure. Yeah,
So you were definitely responsible for that configuration where we all came together as different bands and all played at one dance together. And with a big band, you can just
yeah.
play without a
I
PA
remember
system.
there was one situation where Greg, I think it's what the time of the tape recorder, and then you guys had some
Yeah,
little.
Greg Boardman was there, and John
Greg,
Gawler, and Elaine Malkin,
yeah.
and me.
Anyway, Greg said, "This is what you have to do," and one of the things to do when you've got a call and you've got to play the fiddle and call at the same time because that's the way Dudley does it. And Jesus, the amount of people that have come out of that in Maine, nobody else can do it, but there's you, Greg, Elaine, at
Well,
least a dozen.
we didn't know any other way, and
Yeah,
I still think it's a good way to go. The
I'm thinking
I always
Vermont.
impressed me how your understanding of the music made your calling that much better.
Yeah.
I think.
Well, Fred Brunig from Vermont. Fred Brunig was a caller from Vermont. Massachusetts had the Caners, and Rhode Island didn't have anybody. Connecticut didn't have anybody, and you guys had a dozen anyway. And New Hampshire had, I think we had three people who call and play at the same time.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they're a dying breed for sure.
yeah,
Well, look, I think we got a lot of people that are going to want to give you a tribute here, Dudley. So we're going to move right on here, and we'll bring up Chris Madigan. So if Chris Madigan is ready, here we go, Chris. Welcome.
Thanks, Doug. Hey, Dudley.
Hi, Chris. How are you?
I'm well. How are you? Happy 90th.
Thank you.
So I was thinking back with this in mind, and I remember the very first time I heard you play and call, and I believe it was the spring of 1972, but it could be 73. Bill Ox, who played penny whistle and was starting to learn the pipes back then, and later went on to run the Irish Cultural Center in Manhattan. He was hired to teach drama at High Mowing School, where I worked at that time for about 4 or 5 years. And he kind of dragged me to the Dublin School. And you were calling a dance at the Dublin School. And there was this small room, and it was just packed with lots of people in the entire school, I imagine, but also people from the outside. And that was my very first exposure to your calling and to the dancing and the music. And I think my life changed in that one night because after that, I needed to keep going back and was hooked on the music and the dancing.
Yeah, that's great. Do you still do timber houses?
Well, I just retired, but I did a couple of projects last year, and who knows?
Yeah. Do you still call dances?
I haven't done that in a long time. I did that for about 10 years or so in the 70s and 80s, but I had kids and started a business and was building my house, and it just became too much.
Yeah.
And something had to give.
Yeah.
And back then, I remember traveling up to Maine in those early 70s years. Probably after a year or two of going to your dances, I started teaching the kids at High Mowing.
Oh, yeah.
We had a Randy Gaudison would play fiddle, and then later I got Steve Woodruff and Charlie Durfee to come and play, and I would call and teach the dances, and then I would take a van and bring all the kids to your dance.
Yeah.
And for years I did that, and then Charlie Durfee moved to the Bath Apprentice Shop, and he got me to come up there and call, and he would play, and Jeremy Coleman, and even Ellen Gawler came with us from Vermont. That would have been about 75. We
Who was
started
the
going.
fellow, who was the gentleman at the uh, boat shop who ran that? What was his name?
Who ran the boat shop?
Well, he was one of the big guys there. Well, I mean,
Lance Lee
Lance Lee. Lance.
and Dave. I'm forgetting.
It was Lance.
Yeah.
Lance. I remember he got taken. He didn't know what he was doing on the dance floor. His wife would drag him around. It was the funniest thing, and he loved it. I mean, he loved just every minute of it, you know. But what's going on? But I was going to tell you something about high mowing. One time, I heard that there was a dance going to be a high mowing. It was in a newsletter, and the Ralph Page was the caller. And
Oh wow.
so it was in a newsletter. I figured it was a public dance. And so Franny Smith, who lived in Somerville, he and I drove up on Thanksgiving night and drove up there, and the place was all dark. And so went and pounded on the door, and this older woman, who was the director of the school, came and said, "What do you want?" And I said, "Well, we've got this notice saying there's a dance here." And Ralph Page told about it. So we come up to that. And she says, "Get in here." So she told Ralph, and Ralph came over and said, "Damn it, they shouldn't have put that in. It's a private dance." And I said, "Well, I just drove up from Boston." And he said, "You sit with the orchestra. Don't you touch those girls." And the band was Dick Richardson on the fiddle and Johnny Trumbull on the piano. And I think Junior was playing bass, and Ralph was calling. And
Wow.
I don't know how it was in that great room with a fireplace. And I'm not sure, I didn't pay much attention to what he was calling. He didn't stall much like a lot of times he was doing. He was running the dance, but I don't think he did any contras. He may have, did mostly squares. He may have done the Virginia Reel. I don't think he did anything else. He may have, I don't know.
Wow.
But anyway, I spoke to Mark Birdsell's sister was a student there. And I kind of liked her, you know, and so I got to talking, and I found out they wanted somebody to do some folk dancing, and I was using records, not much, but some. So, and I didn't have a car, so I would take the bus from Concord. I was living in Concord at the time. Took a bus down to Nashua. Somebody would meet me and bring me up to Wilton, and I'd do the dance and stay the night, and then have breakfast. But what a beautiful place, in those books that they made for the teacher. Jeez, just wonderful.
That was Mrs. Emmett, Mrs. Beulah Emmett, who founded the school and ran it till she passed away.
Yeah. That was a beautiful place. It's still going, I guess.
Oh yeah, stronger than ever, I'm sure.
I think Mark was teaching over at Pine Hill.
That's right.
A sister school or something.
Well, that started as a grammar school in the early to mid 70s.
Yeah.
And in the early 70s, you were doing a kind of a regular dance at the apprentice shop in Maine.
Oh yeah.
And do you remember those postcards you would send around with your dance schedule on them?
Yeah.
That's
I
how
remember that apprentice shop. That was great.
that's how people knew.
Yeah.
Before the internet, we got postcards of what the upcoming dances were.
Yeah, I was looking. Now that I have COVID, a lot of time when I'm with COVID around, I don't go out much, and so I'm going over all my old stuff, and I'm coming across some of those postcards. Boy, I was booked. I was doing a lot of things.
Well, I should probably make room for others who have plenty to say, but I have thousands of fond memories of your dances and people and musicians. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you, Chris.
You bet. And so now we're on to Vince O'Donnell. Vince O'Donnell, are you there?
I am here. Hi, everybody, and thanks so much, you guys, for setting this thing up, and everybody for being here. Hi, Dudley. We haven't talked for a while. It was a couple weeks ago, I think it was. I just want to go back to '65 when we met. You know, it was my wife has had a lot of really fortunate direction-setting accidents, and meeting you was one of them. I remember coming up for a poetry reading with Agnes, and that was something new. And at the end of the reading, you had a dance in the house, and it blew me away. I mean, I was just so struck. It was a perfect setting for it, obviously, and it just hit something that I've been looking for, but didn't know I was looking for it, and fell in love with it. And we came back another time that summer, and you said we had gotten into conversation, and you said, "Would you bring your electric bass because we don't have your electric guitar because the bass player can't make it, and we need somebody to play bass." So I said, "Yeah, I can fake it. You know, I can do bass riffs." And by the end of the dancing part of that evening, I was experimenting with the melodies, and I was totally hooked. And but you really, so you kind of brought me into this whole community. And aside from the fact that, I kind of learned my first contra dance music from you, my first Scottish, my first English, well, a couple dances. It's besides the all that wonderful stuff and the music and the dancing. It was it's a whole community. It's a worldwide community, and I think being part of that has really it's just something I've treasured and really got there through knowing you, and I will always appreciate that. Just profound. But also, we got to be friends, and we that was a tough time to be alive in this country, the '60s and the '70s, and we spent a lot of time talking about just really profound things. Um, the civil rights movement that I was pretty active in, and the anti-war stuff, and pacifism, and poetry, and philosophy, and living on this planet sustainably. I just learned a lot from those conversations, even if we weren't always, coming at it from the same place. I was trying to live in an urban setting, and you were up there on Shaker Road. But all of this has been tremendously important to me, and I just have to thank you for it.
You helped run that little school in Concord, the Community School of New Hampshire.
Yeah, I remember getting a phone call from you saying, "Hey, we're starting a free school, and we want you and Agnes to come direct it."
Yeah, you
And we
did.
did. And it wasn't until we moved up to Pennacook and got a nice place up there, and this wonderful couple, John Chapman and his wife Emmy, let us rent his apartment, even though we looked like complete hippies to him. And that's where I learned that in New Hampshire you live and let live. I looked pretty weird to those folks, but they didn't mind as long as I was a good guy. But yeah, and we ran that school, and you were obviously a huge part of it. Some of our classes, in fact, I think the first English I learned was when you were teaching English to the students
No, it was
in,
Russell
in your
Banks.
house.
Russell
What,
Banks was doing that.
what was Russell doing that? Okay,
Yeah.
all right. So my memory is not as good as yours, but that's I'm living with that. But yeah, that was pretty important, and I got to know New Hampshire a lot better that year, and then driving all around doing gigs with you, I learned a lot about the state. But again, the community is such a important thing. So it turns out the muse hit me, and I wrote a tune for you, and you're going to get a copy of it. But here it is at the moment.
What key is it? Key of G. That's pretty
In the
good.
key of G. I said, why don't I write Dudley a tune in B flat? He'll like that.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
So I'm going to play it. And what I tried to do was to think about something well, the kinds of tunes you like to play and the kinds of dances you like to do, and something that might go well with the sorts of dances in your portfolio, so to speak. So this is called Dudley's 90 exclamation point. Uh, and I hope you like it. But if not, it'll be over in about a minute.
Thank you. That's beautiful.
Oh,
All right.
Vince, that was great.
It's all yours.
Great.
Wonderful.
Thank
Oh,
Thank you, Vince.
No,
That
you're,
was
you're
awesome.
talking about memory, as you know, up in Alaska and Greenland, they used to use euthanasia. And so this old lady had reached the end of her time. They put her out on an ice floe with a bottle of whiskey and her jewelry and stuff. And she looked off in the distance and she saw a pack of seals. Must have been a mile away. So she knocked on the igloo door. And they said, "What do you want, Grammy?" "Well, get out here." So they went out and showed them the seals. And they said, "Jesus, what eyesight you have, Grammy. You better stick around a little bit more and go on the hunting missions with us." So she did. She hung around another 20 years. Spotted the seabird eggs and the seals and the fish and whatever. And one night, one of her great-great-grandchildren was giving birth. And it was important to have a boy child in those days. So the men said, "Grammy, crawl over to the other side the igloo and see if it was a boy or a girl." So she was gone about a half an hour and they came back and they said, "Was it a boy or a girl, Grammy?" And she said, "I don't know." And they said, "Oh dear, your eyesight's failing." "Oh no, that's all right. My memory's poor." Anyway.
Well, I'm about there.
Yeah, unfortunately, we're all getting there. But hey, that's great. Thank you, Vince. We've got a lot of people, so we'll bring them on real quickly here. How about George Fowler? Come join us, George. There he is. How you doing, George?
I'm just great. Thanks, Doug. Hey, Dudley. Greetings from over to the Westwood in Hanover, New Hampshire. So
Right.
where I'm living these days. Anyway, I bring as the town manager of Geezerville. I bring you greetings from Geezerville. I also bring you greetings from the mayor, Art Bryan, who may pop in a little later on. He's currently occupying a hospital bed in Dartmouth Hitchcock with a triple bypass. But he's going home tomorrow, and I mentioned to him. He said one of the regrets was that in preparation for his surgery, why he of course couldn't have anything alcoholic or whatever. And I said, well, and he paused, and I said, well. And he thought for a minute. He said, "Well, Dudley had a quadruple bypass. It didn't slow him down any, so I guess I'll be fine." So anyway, he's doing well. He sends greetings. He may pop in a little later on, but anyway, that's pretty much my message. Enjoyed many a fine evening and many with you when you'd pop over to do some dances and so on. First time I ever met you, when we were talking about first times, you called a dance at the Cape Rosier Grange, and I would say it was probably out to Harborside, either 1978 or 79. It was right after we'd moved to Maine, and you know, it was a lot of backlanders there. Scott was there at that point, and a bunch of folks. It was a great dance, and I think you did the whole thing from top to finish on your own. I think, as I recall, it was just the accordion and you doing the calling in that little tiny Grange hall there. We had a hell of a good time. And I've learned more stories from you that I've packed around than anyone I can think of. Most of them aren't fit for mixed company, but that's all right. Anyway, Dudley, it's good to see you, and I send along a happy 90th on behalf of all the geezers.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
You're more than welcome. I'm off.
Who's next?
Glenn will cue them.
Yeah.
Sorry, Doug, you're muted right now.
Robin.
But
Can
we're-
you hear
There
me
we go.
now?
Robin,
Everyone
what's all
looking
that?
for Robin.
weird-
There's Robin.
Hi. So,
Barbara?
oh, there is an echo. I'm greeting you from Sarasota, Florida,
Oh, so
which is where I now have 2 grandchildren, and both my adult children are. One just got married, and the other is about to get married. So
you still have that copper accordion.
this is the first time I have come on this journey with my accordion. I'm I've got this little teardrop camper that I drove down with, and Sue Hunt sent me the news that you were having this Zoom meeting, so I'm really delighted to be able to say happy 90th.
Thank you.
For those of you who don't know, Dudley refers to this accordion as my coppa. And unlike a lot of people, maybe I actually first was introduced to Dudley to you through the piano accordion, as I had come into studying with Jeremiah McLean, who often told me stories of his influence. So it took me full circle to becoming a caller myself and aspiring to call and play at the same time. I think we last saw each other at the Cabot dance.
Yeah.
Maybe a couple of years ago, where I've called several times now, and often, so much of what I found myself doing was in the spirit of Dudley's dances. Get people moving, get them having fun, leave out a lot of the finer that I tried to aspire to more fancier things, but I really did discover that the spirit of people enjoying themselves is what it's all about. And I don't know if you know this, Dudley, but I was at your 80th birthday, which was an open invitation. And at the time, I was a student at Goddard College, which has an independent master's program. And my independent study I had designed around the piano accordion and music and the soul. And I came to your party, and one of the assignments for this at Goddard is that you write from your own experiences. So I did a whole portion of that semester writing up what they call a process paper about being at your birthday party. And at that party, the way that so many people have been touched and moved and lived their lives more fully through the spirit and soul of another person. I just felt that connection, that huge connection with you, and I also had the privilege to study with Harold Luce in Vermont, who was another caller that could play. And I happened to be there in Tunbridge when you came and met Harold. Do you remember coming to the Larkin Dancer? Yeah. And I got to see these two men greet each other and share their way of what they do. It was very different. And Harold invited Dudley to get up and call a dance, and the Larkin dancers, who are very sure about how things are done, they're all done the same way.
Where was my 80th held?
So the 80th was in New Hampshire in that beautiful barn. I can't remember who owned it. It was
Samberton. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I just got from them. Yeah.
So I had brought my accordion. That experience that night was really launched me. I brought my little stool, which I still have, as my safety net to park myself somewhere and have the courage to play along with people that I aspired to, never be able to play with. And the Sugar River Band was up on stage, and at some point I sat down on the edge and played along, and eventually was invited up on stage. You also invited me up on stage at the Flurry. I don't know if you remember that. There were just so many moments that you invited me into a seat at the table to do what I do, and whatever that would be. And I can't tell you how transformative that has been. That night they played the tune Money Musk. And I remember you turning around and saying to the band, "Oh my God, it's so refreshing to hear Money Musk played the way it's meant to be played." And so I don't know how much time we have. It's one of my favorite tunes. It's a tune that I analyzed and wrote up in that paper, and it's just a big part of my life, and you've been a big part of my life and continue to be. And now I'm teaching these dances to my daughter, to my granddaughter. But I will tell you, there is not much of this culture here in Florida, and it was painfully obvious to me that we were losing a lot of it in, even before the pandemic.
Yeah. There is some dancing down there. Over in Orlando, I've played for a couple of dances.
Yeah.
Yeah, and great time, good folks, and more middle-aged benign ones. My daughter Bronwyn lives down there.
Okay.
Yeah, she lives in Clearwater.
Okay, that's not far. Yeah, I've not been up in that area very much, but I hope to be back.
We did a wonderful program down there for some high school kids who were learning to play the fiddle. And their teacher was very excited about having us come down. And it was at a phys ed conference, and a lot of guys, jocks, were out in the hall and saw all these kids going by with fiddle cases. And they didn't going on, but then they heard the music and they all came in.
Yeah. That's the beauty of it. It's contagious. I'm sure there is possibility. That's why I brought my instrument. Just now in times, it's just not easy to meet up with other people. But I'm open to suggestions if people have ideas, and even doing this virtually. But it's just really great to see you today and see all these people that I know, and I do hope to be back up in Maine by next summer.
Good. Thank you.
So maybe we'll see you there.
Yeah.
All right.
So yeah, I didn't know if we had time to play Money Musk, but
oh, quick, Money Musk, go for it.
Want to play Money Musk? All right. I haven't played in a long time.
Here we go.
Happy birthday, Dudley.
Thank you.
To many more.
Nice.
Thank you, Robin. And you know what I thought, Dudley? For your sake, just for your sake, what I'm going to do is I'm going to quickly read all the names of the people who are here, because you can't really see who's here, and I want you to know, just in case. So I'm going to start at the top of the list here. You've already met everybody, but Bernice, Natalie, Ann Baer, Autumn, Bill Olson, Bill Perry, Bill Shepard, Billy Fisher, Calvin Ailes, Carol Whipple, Kathy Mason, Chris Madigan, Debbie Gremlitz, Dorcas Selton, Ellen Goller, Fred Brunig, Fred Portney, Ginny Catskill's Folk Connection, Gretchen Stevens, Henry Yoshimura, Emily K family, iPad, Ishmael, SW, Jack Beard, Jacob and Nancy Bloom, Jennifer Sarinza, Jonathan Morse, Judy Elliott and Arnie Alpert, Karen Stein, Carolina, Kathy Schimberg, Kaylee, Smokey McKean, and Kaylee McKean, Leonard, Lynn Williamson, Maggie Robinson, Margot, from Denmark, I think, Mark T, Michael Kernan, Patricia Campbell, Patrick Hornig, Paul Rosenberg, Paul Tabor, Peter and Emmeline are coming right up, Randy Miller, Richard Blood, Robin Russell, Ryan Thompson, Sam Baumgarten, Sandy Davis, Sarah Mason, Shauna Eisenberg, Sue Dupre, Sylvia Misco, Teresa Wyman, Tony Parks, Tuckaway Farm, Dorcas Selton, and Margot in Denmark again. So what a 62 people are here to salute you. And so I'm going to bring on Peter Urensky and Emmeline Reynolds next. So come on, guys. Are you there?
Hey, Doug.
Yes.
One quick thing. Dudley would like to greet people in particular. Smokey McKean, he hasn't seen in a long time.
He's listed. He's listed.
And we have some friends from England, Johnny Whipple and his wife,
Yeah.
Carol. I don't know when you want to fit that in, but
we can get them signed up. We'll
Yeah.
get them.
Well, even if you can't sign them up,
Yeah.
Hi, Dudley. Happy birthday.
Yeah.
There he is.
Happy birthday, Dudley.
My
I've
word.
written you a song.
All right.
Do you want to hear a
Good.
song? Then we'll get out of the way. I'm going to give you one before somebody gets me.
Okay.
Here's a health to Dudley Laufman and all his 90 years. He's chanted song for everyone and brought us all good cheer. And now the music's starting, take your partner by the hand and dance and swing and promenade and all at his command. So raise your glass and see that you do not spill. We'll drink a health to Dudley, a dancing master still. And now that we've drunk his health, we'll drink to everyone, to all who play and all who dance, wherever a song is sung, wherever a fiddle is lilting, when people tap their feet. You need a man like Dudley to help them keep the beat. And so drink, boys, drink, and when they do not spill, we'll drink a health to Dudley, a dancing master still. And so drink, boys, drink, and see that you do not spill. We'll drink a health to Dudley, a dancing master still.
Nice.
Johnny was the one.
Oh.
Johnny was the one that when I went over to England way back to the Chippenham Lake Festival.
That's it. I was
He was
wearing my
dancing
ball
with
drink.
White
Got my
Horse
ball drink.
Morris. Yeah, White Horse Morris. And
Yeah.
I had to give him a copy of Mistwold when it was an LP.
Yeah,
And he got him again.
still
With
got
all
that
them-
LP.
And we stayed at a little bed and breakfast. There was a pub called the Three Keys. And we went over there for a drink, and Johnny and the whole White Horse Market came out of the shadows. And first thing Johnny said to me was, "Where'd you get them great tunes?" And that's how that became my, for one of the recordings we did was, "Where'd you get them great tunes?" Not tunes, tunes.
Tunes.
Yeah,
That's
great,
where that came
wonderful
from.
guys. Jeez.
Hey, Johnny, I want to say thank you. And if you guys came up with that in two, that's really amazing. I'm so glad you got the message. And I haven't met you yet, but hope at some point. Oh, can't hear you.
Yeah. Well, I think they might have cut out, but no, there they are. But anyway, thank you, Tom and Carol, all the way
Yeah.
from England. How awesome is that?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
moving right along, we've got a big lineup here, so we got to keep it moving along. So now we got Peter Urensky and Emmeline Reynolds. Hey, good to see you guys.
He'll put
Dudley,
Hi.
got your message before. Happy birthday to you too.
Hold on, Glenn. Dudley can't see them. Can you make them big on the screen?
You can't see Peter and Emmeline?
Oh, maybe my view. Hold on.
I assure you, we're not invisible.
There we go. We got it.
That's a flash drive.
Yeah, yeah. You want to know about a flash? I ain't gonna tell you about a hard drive.
So I tried to call you this morning, but you were probably still.
No, I was not. I was in the shower, and I don't answer the telephone from you when I'm in the shower, Dudley.
So just a minute there. We wish you a happy birthday, joyful and celebrated birthday. Our friend Peter, we wish you a long, long life. We wish you a long life. So I'm not the only one that has a birthday on February 7th. Peter does, Lynn Cornelius does, Randy Miller does.
Yeah, Randy Miller.
Yeah. That's why we did it.
you,
I
Dudley.
called Randy. He was still in bed. I can't find Lynn. Bill Chatfield is from Elliott, Maine. He showed up the other day with a gallon of black. Anyway,
Thank
here
you.
we go.
Hey, Dudley.
Yeah.
So I used to go to the Northwood Fair back when it was in the old apple orchard. And I used to go there because Omar Marcoux was there. And I'd play tunes with him on my penny whistle, which I was just learning to play. And one time I was sitting in the orchard and these people came along with a guy playing some music and all these people doing crazy dancing. And I watched it and it was fascinating. And after I was watching it for about a half hour, an hour or something, you said, well, so one of these days you're going to start doing it too. And I bet it was probably the Phoenix Morris. And I did start doing it and have been doing music and dance ever since, thanks to you.
Thank you.
And we did a dance, you used to do a dance in the Unitarian Church in Durham, and I went to it, and it was a marvelous little dance. And so when we weren't going to be playing in Dover anymore, I said, I know the perfect place for a dance. And until the pandemic, that's where we did our dance, and you came to our first one. It was great.
Wonderful.
So
you're going to play a tune? You're going to play a tune?
We're going to play a tune. We're going to play the Huntsman's Chorus.
But for this iteration, it has been temporarily renamed Dudley's Zucchini Bread. I've decided.
What key are you going to do it in? We can jam along.
Gee whiz.
Gee whiz.
Nice. Yay.
Many happy returns.
Thank you.
That's one of my favorite dance tunes, and very typical, great of the kind of best dance tunes for dancing that you have brought along to us, Dudley. So I really appreciate that. So coming right up here, we've got Jennifer Scarinza. All right, Jennifer, welcome.
Hey there. Hi, Doug. Hi, Dudley. Hi, Lindsay.
Hi.
Hi.
Happy birthday to you.
Your
What a
father
wonderful-
still has his cows out, for God's sake.
Yes, my dad still has his cows out.
Grass out there, just snow, and he's still got them out.
Yes, but he does feed them.
Yeah. Is Sean playing his accordion?
He's not playing his accordion much right now, but I'm hoping to influence that soon. And I'm not quite ready to play my fiddle for you, but I would just like to, I promise I will someday. But I'd like to just share a few things with you today in celebration of a long life of enjoying you and your music and dancing. So Dudley, this goes back, it starts in about 1980 when I was at the Loudon Elementary School, and as was the case, all of the fourth graders did New Hampshire Heritage Unit, and that is where I first learned to dance. When you came and did lessons for our group, it was a required part of our unit. And little did I know at that time what an influence and what a big part of, an important part of my life you would become. I have had so many dances over the years that you've played at, including our Randolph Mountain Club dances in the barn on the hill up here in Randolph. You played for the dance the night before our wedding, which is still one of my fondest memories ever, with a town hall full of all of my favorite people doing my favorite thing, dancing to wonderful music. You and I share a love of dairy cows and dairy farming, and I've enjoyed your poetry. I can relate to the words that you write about the farming life and what it's like to be in tune with the cows. So another important thing for me in the last few years, I'm primarily a high school agriculture teacher. But about 5 years ago, I did a year at the Jefferson Elementary School as the phys ed teacher for K to 5. And I was terrified because it was a new subject and a new age group for me. But one of the highlights was the dance unit. And I actually got to teach them some of the basic dance moves and the Virginia reel. And I'll never forget the day that I watched the fourth graders dance the Virginia reel with such glee and joy. And I remember calling home and telling John, it worked. They really danced and they loved it. And I just felt very connected to you, thinking back to learning to dance when I was in elementary school, and what a treasure that was for me to be able to share that with the little kids. And I hope that you reflect sometimes on all of the generations of us that you have influenced with music and dancing, and what an important part of our lives that has become. Fiddle music and dancing's been one of the greatest joys in my life, and I plan to introduce, well, I'm already playing fiddle music for our baby, and I plan to introduce the dancing just as soon as possible. So the tradition carries on, and I thank you, and I wish you a wonderful, happy birthday, and many more to come.
Thank you.
So.
Okay, thank you. And coming right up, Tony Parks. Tony, are you there? Hey.
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me, Doug? Yeah.
Good to see
you.
Dudley.
Hi.
Thanks, Glenn. Thanks, Doug. Dudley, how are you doing? How's the weather there?
It's snowing.
Yeah, here too. It's coming right down. The year I met you was the same year as Vince, 1965. Of course, I was just a kid at Farm and Wilderness camps, and you came over in the middle of the summer, and you called a dance for us. I'm not sure why you came that year, but right in the middle of the summer of '65, you came over and called for the teenage group, a whole evening of, I don't remember much about what you called, but there were some contras certainly, which most of the kids had never done before. And then a week or two later, you invited some of us back to your house in Canterbury. And they couldn't have been all 60 of us, so I don't know how they picked who went, but I remember dancing right in your living room, and the hearth was really big, and it was about several inches below the wood floor. So we had a contra line that was it was a split level line. You know, half of it was down on the stone and half of it was up on the wood floor, and we danced somehow. And then summer of '68, I went back to Farm and Wilderness as a junior counselor, and the caller that year, who was also the farmer, was Dave Fuller, who sometimes played the accordion and called at the same time. And I had done a little calling back when I was a camper in 64, 65. And then I did a little more in 68 under Dave. But Dave invited me to go to the Fox Hollow, the Beers Family Festival at Fox Hollow, where you were playing with the Canterbury. And I guess Dave was playing accordion, and he invited me to sit in on piano. The only trouble was that with the humidity at the outdoor amphitheater at Fox Hollow, all of their piano keys had stuck together. So Dave Fuller, bless his soul, took a knife and he whittled down the sides of every key so that they would swing freely again. And then Bob Beers himself tuned the piano just so I could play with the Canterbury that night. I'll never forget that night. It was so cold that I had to put my fingers on the correct keys by eye because I couldn't feel what I was doing. But we had a blast. And then at some point, and I don't remember what year it was, whether it was 65 or 68, you told me, you took me aside, you said, Tony, you do what you want to do with your life. If you want to be an itinerant musician or an itinerant dancing master, you go ahead. Don't let anybody tell you you can't. And that meant a whole lot to me because I had done some calling, as I say, but I was really unsure of myself. And my high school psychologist said, you can't make a living as a dance caller. So, you were an inspiration to me right from the start. And I've had many reasons to thank you over the years. So thanks again. Stay safe.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. Right over your shoulder, Mr. Bob McQuillan.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
This is our picture of Bob McQuillan. It's on our office wall.
My word. Yeah.
Wow.
So thanks again, Dudley. Long may you wave.
Thank you very much.
Hey, Tony, good to see you. We got 63 people here. They're still coming in, Dudley. So, and a lot of them want to salute you. So we're going to move right on with to Sylvia Misco. Are you there, Sylvia? Are you unmuted? Oh, you got to unmute yourself.
I have.
Hey!
Can you hear me?
We can.
Oh,
good to see you and hear you.
Good. Well, I think I can trump most everybody about how long they've known Dudley because I met him when I was at UNH, and there was a folk dance and contra dance group that met twice a month, and I went to it because I've always been just absolutely besotted with dancing. And sometimes Dudley would come. He'd walk into the hall, and he always had a suit jacket on, and his accordion slung over his shoulder, and all the girls would go, "Oh, sigh." Really, we would. and then he had because he was playing accordion, and I was just beginning to learn to play. He was getting a new accordion from Bob McQuillan, and he sold me his accordion, and that was sort of the beginning of my playing. And I've played for Dudley off and on for, well, ever since then. I thought I would like to play a tune that Dudley wrote, so he wrote a lot of tunes, but this is one of the ones that I got it out this morning, and it worked.
I go to dance the other day. Dance like the contrabandidos.
All right.
Hey Dudley, what do you think of my jersey?
What team do you play for? Oh, the Broncos. Who are they?
Has-beens.
Yeah.
Oh, that's Joe, right?
What do you think of my hat?
Joe from
Oh,
Nelson.
oh, yeah, right. Yeah, look
Yeah.
at that. Yeah. So where's your number 13? Is it at 18 or 13?
18.
18. You usually had 13. Did you also, have you shaved?
I have shaved.
You cut your hair too.
Cool. I think
I don't
Sylvia
have
might
any
be
left.
ready now.
Okay, Sylvia, got a tune.
What's
You got
that?
a tune for us.
Well, it takes a little while to get from the computer chair to the playing chair and then get the accordion on at all. So this is a tune that Dudley wrote, and it's called Tower is Real. And wait a minute. Sometimes the fingers come out with a different set of notes than the head says you're going to do.
Lovely. Very nice, Sylvia.
So
And
Dudley,
a good sound on that accordion, too. That was good. All right. Boy, we've got a big lineup here, so we're going to move right along here. We've got, let's see, we've got Kathy Mason and Steve Arkin. Please join us right now and say hi to Dudley. There they are.
You're good, Glenn.
Unmute. Ah, there.
There
Hey!
they are.
All day long, I have to tell him to stop being on that banjo thing.
Tell your story. Let's get it on.
Some of y'all may know that I am Dudley's niece. One of them. Another one is here, Sarah Mason. She's also here. Hey, Dudley. And Dudley had a big influence on my musical and dancing career as well. I did not meet Dudley till I was a teenager because my family lives down south in Maryland, and when we moved up here, I inevitably got bit by the contra dance bug and was also learning fiddle. And as most probably know, Dudley was great about having sit-ins, so I got to get my chops up playing in his dances quite a lot. We would go up, a bunch of us teenagers would drive up to New Hampshire and go to the dances and then stay over there, and the whole thing was awesome, and he was very encouraging at a time when I was not feeling like I knew what the heck I was doing. And since then I've played, had a sort of a partial career playing for lots and lots and lots of dances and other kinds of performances on fiddle. And one of my bandmates is or was here, Henry Yoshimura. Hi, Henry. So about a decade ago, was it, Dudley, when you won the Folk Heritage Award? Was that about a decade ago?
2009, I think.
Yeah, about a decade ago.
12 years.
And I wasn't able to go to it because I had a band tour that had been planned waited before I knew that this was the date of Dudley's thing. So, in lieu of not being able to be there, I wrote him a tune. Steve and I are going to play now, and Dudley probably has not heard this tune in almost that long. And it's called "Going to Washington," and it's subtitled "Dudley on the Beltway." So here we go.
Oh, thank you, Kathy and Steve. Very nice.
And that's Steve fellow, Steve Arkin. Steve, what's your relative that was in The Russians Are Coming?
Alan.
Oh,
Huh?
Alan
What was
Arkin.
his name?
Oh my. Wow.
Yeah.
First in the fame. All right, well, moving right along here. Hey, Smokey, are you there? Smokey the Keen.
Oh, finally.
Also, this Chuck Talk says tuck away. Hopefully I can get on here in a little bit.
That's Chuck
Whoop.
Fox.
There we go. There's Smokey McKean. There we
No,
go.
that's not
I'm
Smokey.
on.
That's
Hey,
Chuck.
Dudley.
Yeah.
There he is. Yep.
Dudley, hello there.
Smokey, how you doing?
Good, man. Good to
All
see
right.
you.
You still fishing?
Still farming,
Farming.
but I farm for
Okay.
fish, don't I?
Right. Okay. So Katie's still
we
doing.
call it farming.
They still. Katie's still doing the garlic.
Garlic. On from the garlic, pretty much. Yeah, we sold the place in March,
Oh, you did?
and we're living down in the river, South Bristol,
He's living in the river.
living on the Damascotta River.
Oh, okay.
You can't hear me.
Yeah.
And so I guess everybody's thinking of the first time they met you, and I can't remember first meeting you, but I remember the first gig I did with you, and it was, and you already mentioned it. It was that night in Cape Porpoise.
Yeah.
Was that the place? And I had a
No,
newspaper.
actually, it was at Nassau.
No, it was before that. Before
Oh.
that, you and Bob and Greg and I played in Atlantic Hall.
Oh, yeah,
Atlantic
right.
Hall.
Yeah.
And you went, and like you said, you went to Dilt's and we had the zucchini. And then you showed up wearing the purple. I was thinking it was a purple cape, not a blue cape. And it had a great big pocket into which you put that little tiny fiddle.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
And there was a nice newspaper article that I saved for years. I may still have it tucked away in the
I
archives
do
somewhere.
too. I
With
still
a picture
have
of
it.
you wearing the cape.
Yeah.
You have it. All right.
Yeah.
Well, good. Then it's there for all eternity.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, I heard a good story. You remember David Clapp played the bass?
David Clapp,
from
yes.
Reedfield?
Yeah.
Well, he married Carol Harvey from the Harvey and Epping. And he died. But anyway, they had a son, Otis. Otis lives in Epping now. And he went to the senior prom at Epping High School. And took his then girlfriend, now wife, for a date. And he was told that he had to have a tuxedo. Well, there was no tux shop in Epping, so he had to go into Portsmouth. And he stood in line there and got his tuxedo and came back, and they told him that he had to have a carnation, is that it? A boutonniere. Yeah, but what's the other one? Yeah, boutonniere. So anyway, there was no flower shop in Epping, and
Close
the one
enough.
in Brentwood wasn't open. Yeah, so one in Epping wasn't, and one in Brentwood wasn't open, so he went into Portsmouth again and stood in line and to get him a corsage. And he came back, and they went down to the dance, and there was this old fart taking the tickets, and he was commenting on everybody's gown and on their tuxedos and everything. And so they went in, and they got themselves a table and a chair, a dance or two, and then she said, "Otis, I'm hungry." So we went up to the snack bar and stood in line there to get a sandwich. Came back, gave it to her. She said, "Otis, I'm thirsty." So we went up, and there wasn't any punchline.
Oh, Jesus. Oh, that's pitiful, Dudley.
You're laughing now, aren't you?
Oh man.
Well, it's great to see you. I haven't seen you.
Yeah, absolutely.
We went to stopped at dinner. We stopped at the place where you play music there, and the wall right down Damascotta.
Yeah, Schooner. Yeah, Schooner.
And I left a message there for you. Anyway, I didn't see you, but it's great to see you now.
Likewise, you'd be good. It's great. You're looking mighty fine.
Huh?
Yeah, I say you're looking mighty fine.
Okay, well, so are you. A little shaggy, but you look good.
Take care.
All right, you too.
Leather breeches and shaggy locks. We've got plenty of shaggy locks from the old days. The ones of us that still have hair, that is.
That's why you told a shaggy dog joke.
You know, Dudley really got us going on the idea of expanding the way to make a living with music by doing the school programs, and so I forgot how instrumental you were in inspiring us to do daytime gigs in the schools, and over the years we did many school gigs. So that's another tribute to you. So next we've got Ginny Shear. Hi, Ginny.
Hi, Doug. Hi, Dudley. Happy birthday.
Thank you.
I am just so envious of all of you who are here today who've had such decades of time to play and dance with Dudley. And I got started in the early 70s, but I moved away. So I only got to dance with him for a couple of years. But still, he had a great influence on the direction that I took. Dudley, there's no reason you'll remember me or remember doing this, but you saw me off to the Catskill Mountains of New York and told me to start dances there. And I said, but I can't. I play the flute and I can't call and play the flute at the same time. And you said, oh, well, that's a shame, but why don't you do it the way the old guys did, where they would play the tune, and then stop, give the call, play the tune, and go on. And I was always very, very complimented that you really thought I could go do that. Well, I couldn't. There just wasn't much contra dancing in the area. That it was a dyed-in-the-wool square dancing area. So I've been square dancing ever since. And then when I retired, started Catskills Folk Connection, which you might see on the screen, to carry on the music tradition here in the Catskills. And all of this really started when Pam Kelly took me to Nelson and got me on the floor to Money Musk, and I was hooked on contra dancing. And if anybody wanted to find out where I was, they just looked at one of your postcards, because I tried to hit all of them before I moved away. So thanks again. And I have one question for you, Dudley. Are you writing poetry now?
Yes.
Good.
Actually, I'm not writing anything. I'm putting together a lot of old stuff.
Mm-hmm. Well, I was delighted. I went to the Putney performance of the play, and that's where I found one of your books of poetry. I didn't know you wrote poetry until then, and it's really wonderful. So I hope you do some more.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. And let's see who we've got coming right up is Jacob Bloom. Jacob, are you there?
Oh, I'm here.
Oh, good.
Still from Arlington, Jacob?
Yes, I'm in Arlington. And
We'll
it's
beam you in
snowing
and-
here now. And, you know, back in the days when you'd come down every year for the Nefer Folk Arts Center family dances. I'd be at the door taking money, but I'd also be taking notes on all the dances that you called, so as to add to my repertoire. And in some cases, I've got more than one version you've called of some of the dances. But I was, you know, you were a great influence and a great source for me in figuring out how to lead dances for communities, the people who, as you said, aren't starting anything, they're just there to have a good time. And that's most of what I do when we get a chance to call dances for people again. So happy birthday, Dudley, and thank you.
Thank you. I went to that house in Arlington where I grew up at 194 Pleasant Street. And I went there a couple of years ago, and there was family there living there. But they invited me in, and I went up to where I slept on the 3rd floor. And there was a little cubby there. And it went in under a roof. And the kid in that house didn't know about that. And so he was pretty excited about that. And then I went in, a new family is in there, and I went and called on them. My sister goes all the time. And got a nice card from them the other day. So it's nice to keep touch with that, particularly with the house to live in. That's pretty nice. We used to have dances there, right in my kitchen. I mean, right in the cellar. We had dances. Tried to persuade these people to let me have one there. Thanks.
Sounds great.
All right, thank you. And Bob Stein, you're up next. Where's Bob? There's a blank on Bob. Well, we might need to.
If Jonathan Morris is available.
Jonathan Morris is Jonathan Morris.
And Bob's on mute, right?
Well, he's also his camera's off too, or something. I didn't.
So hi, I'm Jonathan Morris and Charlene Morris here.
Hi, Charlene. Hi, Jonathan.
Hey, Dudley.
So Tony beat me to it. I was gonna be the one who would honor Dave Fuller by mentioning his name here. I was living at Farm and Wilderness in '68, and he said, "Let's go to a dance." And I said, "Okay." And he took me down to Nelson, and we had he introduced me to contra dancing, and I never looked back. And then, of course, I met my wife at Pine Woods, Charlene, who you already knew, Dudley, and from playing in the orchestra. And we've had, well, I'm starting to tear up. We've had many, many years of dancing of all kinds together, and our kids are musicians and dancers, and I don't know if it would have happened without you, Dudley. It probably would have, but you certainly had a great influence on us. And one of the memories I have that I wanted to share was going down to the John F. Kennedy Center way back. I don't know what year that was, when when we took the orchestra and a bunch of dancers down there, and we danced on the stage of the Kennedy Center. Whoa.
Yeah.
That was something.
Yeah. Do you still do any Morris dancing?
Oh no, I'm way past that.
Yeah. Are your kids, are the girls still involved with FNW?
No, they're not.
Well, that's not true. He signed up her 11, he was 10 and a half last year to go to Flying Cloud when he turned 11. But then it got canceled last summer. So
yeah,
if it happens this summer or at least the summer after, he'll go.
Yeah.
So
weren't two of the girls with one of the Outlander camps?
Joanna was one of the directors of SAM.
Yeah, okay.
Mountain, yeah. And Erica worked at IB and SAM as well.
Yeah.
So,
you know, I have a daughter named Erica. Actually, her name is Heidi, but it means the same thing. It means the same thing.
Okay.
Yeah. All right.
Happy birthday, Dudley.
Happy birthday.
All right, and we got Shauna coming right in here.
Hi, Dudley.
Hi, Shauna. Hey, Shauna, I want to hire you for a gig in July.
Sounds great.
What's her name? I can't think of it. Let's say has a sheep farm right in Lancet.
Oh, Helen.
Helen, yeah. She wants her 75th.
Oh, wonderful. Oh, that would be a blast.
And then we have a wedding town in September, and I'm going to get you for that too.
Awesome. Well,
all right.
I don't remember how many years ago we met, but I've loved every chance that I have to sit in and play together, and I know there's a ton of people here. I was at your birthday in Gilmanton. I think it was 5 years ago. Maybe it was a few more years ago than that. And that was fun. But why don't I'll probably get in trouble for picking this one but I learned Sweets of May playing with you. But I don't know if I should play it with it being February and snowing. But
That's right.
But I guess
if you
I'll
want
do
to
it.
play, go ahead.
I'll do that anyway.
One time through.
You
That's
bet.
a 6-part.
Time. Right. 3 parts.
Yeah.
Well, happy birthday, and so looking forward to when we all get to play dances, and you inspired me to also, I was already a fiddle player and guitar player, but you inspired me to start to learn to call while I fiddled. So thank you.
All right.
Thank you, Shauna. Okay, Gallers, are you there? Oh, Ellen Galler, I hope you're there. Whoop, there she is.
We're right here. Hello, Dudley. Hello, everybody.
Hi, Ellen.
Well, since we're all telling stories, I'll have to say that I went to my first Dudley dance when I was 13 or 14 back in the early 70s, and it was in Putney. And I felt like I was walking into a room of magic, and my life was changed, and I've never looked back since. But we're all here. We want to sing you a song. It's the song you always ask John to sing when you see him, and it's called The 30-Foot Trailer.
Oh.
Come on over, John. Where's John?
Edith, I think ran out to get him.
Oh my gosh, he went to take the garbage out to the compost. He'll be right back. And so I just want to say, I was one of those crazy teenagers that was following you all around, in southern New Hampshire, Vermont, and western Massachusetts, doing a dance every night of the week. I was one of those ones who was going out to Concord on Mondays and Nelson on, what was it, Tuesdays or when, I can't remember, but it was every day of the week.
Hey, Ellen, we could bring you back and move on, and then.
Yeah, good idea. Go to someone else and. Oh no, he's right here. He's coming.
Is he ready? Ready? Okay.
Yeah.
Come on, John. Get on it.
Okay, Johnny. We're on it here. So we got a crowd around so we can sing. We have
taking the jacket off. Come on.
He's coming. He's coming.
We've got Molly and Edith.
Where's your gold teeth, John? Where's your gold teeth?
Hey, Dudley, hiya.
Hey, what's the gold teeth?
Good to see you.
Yeah.
Have we sung your old 30-foot trailer today?
No.
Would you like to?
Yes.
Let's do it.
You need to share, Daddy. This one for you.
Oh, look at that. Look. You're going to have another baby.
Here, Dudley.
The old ways are changing, you cannot deny. The way of the travelers are over. Bylaws say you must be on your way, and in order to say you can't wander, farewell to the tent and the old caravan, to the tinker, the gypsy, and the traveling man. Goodbye to your 30-foot trailer. Farewell to the cant and the traveling tongue. Farewell to the Romany talking, the buying, the selling, the old fortune telling, the knock on the door and the hawking. Farewell to the tent and the old caravan, to the tinker, the gypsy, the traveling man. Farewell to the 30-foot trailer. Farewell to the besom of heather and broom. Farewell to the creel and the basket. For the folks of today, they would far sooner pay for the thing that's been made out of plastic. Farewell to the tent and the old caravan, to the tinker, the gypsy, the traveling man. Goodbye to your 30-foot trailer. Farewell to the pony, the cob and the mare, for the rings and the harness are idle. There's no need for a strap when you're breaking up scrap. Farewell to the bit and the bridle. Farewell to the tent and the old caravan, to the tinker, the gypsy, the traveling man. Goodbye to the 30-foot trailer. You've got to move fast to keep up with the times, for these days a man cannot wander. There's a bylaw to say you must be on your way, and in order to say you can't wander, farewell to the tent and the old caravan, to the tinker, the gypsy, the traveling man. Goodbye to the 30-foot trailer. Farewell to the tent and the old caravan, to the tinker, the gypsy, traveling man. Goodbye to your 30-foot trailer. Happy birthday.
Happy birthday!
Thank you. Thank you.
And here's to many more.
All right. Thank you, Gallers. And Phil Katz, you're up next, so bring you right in, Phil. There we go. Oh, you got to unmute.
Oh yeah, right.
There we go.
One moment.
Yeah, well, I remember, I'll tell the story. It goes back. First met Dudley at Fox Hollow in '76. I'd shown up with a band then from Chicago that played auto harps and sang. And we were listening to things and knew nothing of this. And up on the stage was the Canterbury Orchestra. And I heard them and I was home. That was it. That's what I was going to do. And a couple of years later, we came back and this time showed up at a dance in Canterbury and didn't know anybody, but I just had the nerve to do that. I'd come east with a buddy and my son, Greg, who was 3 then and is in his 40s now. And my buddy watched Greg out in the car and I went in and I wandered up on the stage with my instrument and there was Sylvia and she says, come on up. And I was up on the stage and it was the first time ever with dancers in front of me. And I've been doing it ever since. Found some dancers in Chicago, moved out to Seattle, and it's well over 40 years now. I've been playing for dancers, and it all started on the stage in Canterbury Town Hall. So thank you.
That's nice.
Changed my life.
Thank you.
Nice.
Good to see you, Phil.
Yeah, good to see you.
Thanks, Phil. Good to see
Still
you.
vertical.
All right, we'll bring on David Millstone.
Hey, Dudley.
Hi.
Nice to be here and glad I could join part of the party. We're
Staying out of that orchard?
Say what?
Staying out of Farnham Hill Orchard?
Yeah, we do.
Yeah.
Go over there to pick up growlers every Thursday.
Yeah.
It's a very good operation they've got going. I didn't know anything about this kind of dancing until I moved to New Hampshire in January of '72, and friends dragged me to a dance. And I was asked, and probably down in the Concord area, I don't remember where. And I was asked to dance. Some lady came up and said, come on. And I feigned a foot injury because I was so nervous about doing it. But later that year, other friends dragged me to the dance that you were calling in South Stratford. I think Carol Langstaff and her husband at the time were organizing that. And as I recall, it was just you and Patty banging away on her drum. And that was a monthly dance. And that's where I got hooked on it. And then Milt Fry hired you to come to teach dance at the Cross School for many years. So I got to be around you with that. And I think that the people I learned the most about from calling were Ted Sinella. From Ted, I learned how to do a really organized program and think about all these things that I never had thought about before. And from you, in addition to just sort of the notion of keeping it a party, I learned to be brief. At that time in my calling, I'd say something like, everybody swing your partner. And I noted that at the same point, you would say, all swing. And I remember, of course, you were working 180 days a year in schools with no PA systems, and you learned to take care of your voice that way. And if you're saying all swing, your voice lasts a lot longer. It was fun hearing Sweets of May. I don't know if you remember, Sheila and I used a little of your poem and a little bit of Randy's illustrations from that broadside as part of our wedding invitation. And that's coming up on 36 years ago. And then, of course, we got to spend a lot of time when I was working on that movie about you, which we're going to show as part of the Flurry next weekend after this. So I'm looking forward to that and introducing it to people who haven't had a chance to discover the other way back. So I'll get off and let other people talk. It's great being here. Be well. Look forward to seeing you and hope your garden grows well this year.
Thank you.
Thanks, David.
Actually, we had a technical glitch with Bob Stein a little while ago, but we're going to bring him back now.
Oh, okay, good.
Just a minute here.
Happy birthday, Dudley. The first time we met you, I think, was when we moved to California to Lexington and had the family dance in the Concord Girl Scout house. And I think it was on Sundays. We brought all our kids and we were dancing with you. I think one of the last times we met you was when you were invited to call at the Great Lakes Folk Festival here in East Lansing, Michigan. And you invited my wife, Laura, to play keyboard with you. And then afterwards, you said you had to have a dance in your house. And so we cleared out the living room and you came over and we had a whole bunch of people over dancing in our living room. So we've got, and in between, there've been many other wonderful memories. So it's been great knowing you all these years, and happy birthday.
Thank you.
Welcome.
I had goods out there.
Well, I had Kathy now. Kathy Torrey, hi.
Hi. Hey, Dudley. I just usually wish you a happy birthday. And this morning I had a walk with Randy, who also shares your birthday. And I don't know if he's been on, but my early memory of dancing with you was when you came to Hampshire College and you walked around the campus like the Pied Piper and then ended up in one of the circular modules that they had there and led a bunch of us all dancing. So, and you also sort of encouraged me, and I've enjoyed calling community dances ever since, up until COVID hit. So thanks for all the.
I tried to call Randy this morning and he was still in bed or whatever. I wanted to, because it's the same birthday.
Right. Well, he said you usually talk today, and he might be on this call, but he might have been taking a walk with me at the time that you called.
Yeah, all right. Well,
anyway,
I'll call him later on today.
We were thinking of you.
That's good.
Yeah. Well, thanks a lot.
All right. Thank you.
All right, and coming right up, we got Todd Whittemore.
Happy birthday, Dudley. Happy birthday to me and all the other Whittemores too. Jeff, Wendy, Tony, Meg, the whole crew. I never actually, my fondest memories are spread out of many, many dances. Carlisle, Massachusetts, and Monadnock Region, New Hampshire. I danced in the summertime with at the Tamworth Inn. I don't know if you remember those dances. They were pretty exciting. Would bring kids over from college, from the camp that I was at. And through the years, it's been great because having been now chairperson or an attendee at the Ralph Page weekend, I've gotten to see Dudley in the last 10 years as well. Continuing tradition, and as I look out over here, all of my stories pale compared to the things that you've accomplished in your career. Bring all these people together, teaching so many people to dance and teaching so many people to play and so many people to call. It's an honor to know you, and you've been an inspiration for me and for many other people. So happy birthday.
Thank you. Thank you, Todd.
Beth.
Very nice.
Yeah, and Sue Hunt coming right up here.
Hi, Dudley, from up the road. Happy birthday.
Thank you.
In 1960, I grew up in Keene. In 1963, my boyfriend said in the summer, "Want to go to a dance in Nelson?" And I said, "Nelson." And I went anyway. And it was the Canterbury Country Dance Orchestra. Dudley on accordion, of course, and Kay Gilbert and Newt Tolman, and I was hooked. And I just kept dancing all summer and through high school, through college. And when I graduated from college, I moved to Boston. I never went to another dance. So I got divorced, moved back to New Hampshire, and by God, Dudley was doing the same thing. Almost. So I followed him to a lot of dances, and at one there was a piano in the corner, and I could hear the chords in my head, and there was just two fiddles playing, and so I went over and very quietly, so nobody else could hear, just to see if I could find those chords. And Dudley came up to me. This was the Alexandria Town Hall. He came up to me at intermission, and he said, "You'll buy a keyboard, I'll hire you to play." And I said, "Well, okay." So I sold my motorcycle back to my ex-husband for the amount it took me to buy the keyboard. And that was a beautiful bike too. And off we went. And some 2 years later, some friends of mine gave me the Swather and Parks book with chords. And I said, somebody's already written all of these down. But I still prefer to play by ear. It's just, it's more fun. It's what I do. But if it hadn't been for Dudley, I wouldn't be doing this today. And we got a couple gigs coming up this summer, and I'm lucky to have played and worked with a lot of other people on this screen, but it's all thanks to Dudley, because if it weren't for you, I wouldn't have gotten introduced to it the way I did. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Card.
All right. Hey, that's it, Dudley. Everybody who signed up got a chance
Actually,
to say something.
Doug, we've got a couple more people who, at the last minute.
Okay. Let's bring them on.
Chuck Cox here.
Here we go.
Hey, we've got Mark Birdsall next.
Happy birthday, Dudley.
Hey,
So,
we mentioned your sister earlier.
okay, well, I was just going to say, growing up as a high school student in Pennsylvania, I had already heard of Dudley Laufman because I had sibs who went to high mowing, and they came back with stories of this contra dancer. So when I moved to Wilton in '74, I went to a Dudley dance and met him in person, and that was very nice. And then I decided I'm going to play the accordion too, because I had a second grade class at that Pine Hill School, and I want to teach them contra dance. So we were going up to Squam Lake or somewhere, and I stopped by Canterbury, and you sold me an old Brazilian red piano accordion for $35, probably 1975, and that's how I learned to play the accordion, and then played and danced with the kids a lot. And then at some point when they were in 7th grade, we were up at Squam Lake for a week in a class trip, and we all came over to Canterbury, and you told them, it was an English project, you told them your life story. You did a biography, autobiographical story for them, and they had to write it up. That was their assignment. So I still have a couple of those somewhere that I saved, but I still play the accordion, but recently decided that was too heavy, so I switched over. I think I told you this a while back. I switched over to the BC, which even though you told me to get something else, I had already bought one, so I stuck with a BC, and I can play it now. So
good for you. I can't play mine.
Yeah, it's what you start on, probably.
What was your sister's name, or your whatever, the girl, the student that I had a mad crush on?
That was Suzanne Latham.
That's right. What's she doing?
She's out in Arizona, and I'm going to talk to her tonight and tell her I talked to you.
Yeah. And what was the name of the fiddler from Pine Hill that died? What was her name?
That was Lydia Reeve.
That's right. Right.
Lydia Reeve, and her son, Chris Mills, is now down in New Zealand, and he has one of the biggest and best craft brewery in New Zealand.
Really?
Yeah, it's great. They get around. They get around the world. Anyhow, it's good to see you. Good to see you looking healthy. And
thank you.
Yeah. Happy birthday again.
Thank you.
Right. Now we bring on Teresa Wyman. Hi, Teresa.
Hi down the road, Dudley. I could walk over and say hello, but it's snowing.
Yeah.
I'm another person that I can't imagine my life without Dudley. I can't really remember not knowing you. I remember when you were at your house, and your baby daughter was really the most interesting person in the family. And a couple of things I want to say.
Which one was that?
Heidi?
Yeah, she was up this morning.
Oh, was she?
Had breakfast. Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Go ahead.
My cousin painted over?
Huh?
I wondered if you still had that picture that my cousin painted of her when she was little.
Yep, yep.
Yeah.
And all the kids, me and Singy did the hopscotch on the stones.
Yeah.
Like you used to.
I know where the stones are.
Yeah.
I could go on like forever with memories. One thing I want to say is, I think you've given inclusiveness to the dance community that's very important. You've always welcomed people to play. Whether they could play or not, you welcomed them on stage. And you've always included people, and you've always said anybody can dance. And the other thing I want to remember is when I was a little girl and we'd have dances at your house. And my dad didn't dance. We all know that he thinks every dance Dudley song, whether it's New England or French Canadian or whatever. But Mom and my brother and I would go over to your house to the dances, and she wouldn't let us stay till the end. That was so annoying. But I remember walking home across the field in the summer and looking up the Milky Way, which you could see then. So I'm going to close on that I always associate you with looking up at the Milky Way in the middle of the summer.
Thank you.
All right, Teresa. Now the Colpitts here. Oh, where did they go?
Oh, Stephanie and Alan?
Just had them.
Yep, Stephanie and Alan. Hello. Hello, Dudley.
Yeah.
Happy birthday.
Oh, my word.
You don't look a day old, Stephanie.
Yeah, you look very good. We're looking forward to seeing you at the lake again this summer.
Yeah, I got a nice nice card from Joby.
Oh, good. Yeah.
Yeah, a nice one.
I see her every week on Zoom.
Yeah.
All the memories we have with you, all the celebrations for your 50th and your years of calling, and your 80th birthday, and the national thing that you won, and all the things we've been to, and the times at the lake and the kayak and the dancing on the lawn, and of course all the time in the schools with all the teachers and the students. We just have wonderful memories.
Thank you. Thank you. Good to see you. Really looks good.
You looking good, Dudley. Happy birthday.
See you this summer.
Thank you.
See you in a few months.
Okay.
Yeah, we're looking for Chuck Cox.
Yeah, right here. Yeah, I think yes, I first met Dudley, I think, in 1961 or 62. I was a student at the meeting school, and I think we came up with Bill Copperthwaite to see this fellow that was homesteading, living off the land and whatnot. It was not connected with the music and not initially with that. Well, I had done some contra dancing and dancing from the school down in Winchendon, I believe. But so I've known Dudley for quite a while, and certainly the homesteading aspect was very important. And I think that hasn't been mentioned much at all is his poetry, which he has many books out. And I've been lucky to have a number of his very early ones, as most of his later ones. And I encourage people to get a hold of those.
Hey, Chuck, I'm so sorry. We accidentally muted you. Can you unmute? I apologize.
Yeah, I think I'm back on now. Yeah, that Dudley played at my wedding back at Powell House in Old Chatham, New York. And that was 52 years ago, or close to it. And he played at our 50th wedding anniversary here in Lee, New Hampshire at Tuckaway Farm, which, and a couple of years before that, he played for my daughter's wedding out in Seattle with some of his other friends out there. And we've been dancing many places, many times. I think the other thing that some of the dance people may not know is that Dudley's one of his favorite books is Islandia, which is a utopian novel of a agrarian country somewhere in the southern hemisphere. And he's actually wrote a book of Islandia myths and tales, I guess. I don't remember how he titled that. So there's quite a lot to him besides just music and dancing, which are very important. But we've certainly glad knowing him over all these years, and certainly wish him the best. And a number of our kids have learned violin and fiddle, and my brother is a violin maker who played with Dudley for a brief while back in the 60s. And so we have a great connection with him, and certainly follow him and wish him all the best, and hoping we can get back and dancing together again.
One time, not too long ago, we had a gathering New Hampshire fiddlers at, I think it was Mary Lou Philbin's. And one of your children, which one fiddled? I can't remember. But anyway, she was sitting right beside Randy Miller. She was about 7 years old. And I said, we're all going to play, Brittany or whoever it was, going to play The Devil's Dream. And she sat there for a minute, you know, and Randy said, do you want me to start it? And she said, no, I could do it. And she could.
Yeah.
All right. So we've got the last one here. We're
played at in Seattle. Yeah.
We're going to bring on Gordon Peary for the last salute here. We've run out of time, so I'm going to bring on Gordon. Gordon, let's see. Are you there?
I am here. You hear me?
Yep.
Yep. So, well, most people have been talking about Dudley's music and calling and so forth, a little bit about his poetry. So I thought I'd tell a story that has nothing to do with any of that. I used to work at the Folkway Coffee House in Peterborough, and sometime in the mid to late 70s, Dudley was sitting at a table flanked by a number of lovely young ladies, as usual. And the subject was the movie Dr. Zhivago. And they were talking, and everyone was oohing and ahhing about what an incredible movie Dr. Zhivago was. So then Dudley went into this little bit of rant about how ridiculous it was, where there's this scene that they're trudging through the snow and the sub-zero temperatures, and they go into the abandoned mansion there, and he sits down at the desk and takes out a bottle of ink and starts writing. And how could the ink be, you know, unfrozen when it had been out in the winter like that? So I thought, well, here's a person who thinks differently about things. So a lot of good inspiration from the music, Dudley, but I'll always remember that conversation as well.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Gordon. And thanks, everybody, for joining in on this celebration of Dudley. We've run out of time, so
happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Dudley.
Happy birthday, Dudley.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Dudley.
Happy birthday.
See you at 100.
Yep.
Good to see everybody here.
Yeah. 10 more.
Birthday.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.